It's so sunny today. It's just, oh my God. Like I literally feel like my soul is coming back into my body. I swear. It's just been so miserable the last month.
Really? Some really cold days here actually the last couple of days. It's been a bit
Yeah.
chilly and nippy, so it's been nice, but it in the evenings you definitely I mean, it depends on how your body temperature is, but like, I felt like I needed a sweat. Sometimes I went out and I was like, I should have taken a sweater.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's the weather definitely adds to all the things in life. But listen, I'm excited to talk about today's topic because it's such a big thing, and health is such a interesting topic to me, honestly, because I have literally seen my body change and shift and how it reacts to food, to exercise, to stress levels, and so on. Like, I mean, I can spend hours on this. So I think this is going to be one of many episodes we're
Yeah.
gonna do on like health, men's health after, I mean, like after 40s. I'm gonna be 40 this year in just few months or so. It's a whole game changer. But listen, you have been in this game for a long time in terms of just not only you as an individual really being on top of your health game, but also you being in the wellness space. So I'll let you kick this conversation off.
Well, I mean, look, I think the story just always started with the fact that again, I grew up with a father who's a martial artist. I grew up doing karate when I was a kid. At 8 years old, I started martial arts, and I think by the time I want to say I was like what 13, 14, I had first degree black belt in karate, and I was not only training in my dad's dojo, I was also teaching grown ups. So that's always been in the blood. However, having said that, I did always have issues with my weight, right? So once puberty hit, I was pretty stick thin for a while, and then puberty came and my body changed and I started to gain weight and I never really knew what to do with that. So I would say that there's been a very, very long journey of not being able to have the self-confidence when it came to my body. I'm somebody who loves the sun, but for a very big chunk of my life, I haven't allowed myself to enjoy going to the beach or going to the pool because I've always felt so insecure being in a swimsuit. So that has many, many layers to it. But if we're looking from a purely wellness, physical health perspective, I think that my relationship with exercise has always been there. I think probably in the last 4.5 years, it's become more solidified because I have seen the changes in my body post pregnancy. I've seen the changes in my body past 40. And I think when I entered the health and wellness space in 2019 and started to understand how important it is for you to stay on top of your physical well-being, not just going to the gym or exercising or what you eat, but also doing regular check-ins when it comes to your blood work, your baseline, and then understanding your hormones, and then understanding the relationship between your sleep and your hormones, and the way in which sorry, I just said bitch. The way in which your body regulates itself and how it dysregulates itself or deregulates itself, whatever the term is, when you don't get enough sleep. So all of that is really, really important. So if I were to say what is one of the fundamental things that I cannot do without is regular baseline blood testing. And then of
Mm.
course something tailored towards like where I'm at right now. Because now over 40, the things I should be checking for are different from when I was younger. And doing that, again, depending on if you have a good insurance or if you have the financial means to be able to do that for yourself every 6 to 12 months, I think it's so important because you really got to do check-ins. And also as women, I think a lot of women don't do this. Like there's this big sort of like, kind of two sides to it where do we go for mammograms and do screenings for like, checking your breasts because, again, after the age of 40, you got to stay on top of that. And of course, just going to your gynecologist and staying on top of that, making sure that you get checked out regularly. It's so important. You don't realize that, but post 40, you really every year you gotta at least once a year if you can. Do regular baseline blood testing. Go to your gynecologist. Go to and get your breast checkout. Just those are the fundamental base things that I would say are like just non-negotiable for me at this point in life.
Yeah, I think it's also this proactive healthcare because this is where I've seen a huge shift, thankfully, to social media, honestly. Because when we were growing up, like I don't remember my mom ever like doing this proactive stuff. Like the most that they did was like cold plunge, sauna. That was proactive care, you know what I mean? And like when my mom was growing up, and then we got into this reactive state where I remember just growing up, being raised in the US as well, and just over the years, I don't remember anybody in my 20s, for example, really being proactive and doing all these checkups. I just didn't hear about it. And I think with social media and all the research that we now have access to, and I think healthcare being a little bit more accessible in some parts of the world, not the US, that's a whole other story. I think we're a little bit more proactive, and I think as you become more educated in a space and, like, in tune with your body, you're like, "Wait a minute, let me go check myself out," and so on.
I think in your 20s, again, I don't know what the experience is, and again, culturally it would be different. But because in my late teens and then my early 20s, I was already in Vancouver, the one thing that was hammered into you was making sure that, you don't get taught sex ed when you go to school here, right? Or back when I was going to school here, it wasn't a thing. But I know that they talk about it here, like now that my kid's in school, but it's more from a biology side of
Mhm.
things. But when I went to Canada, I mean, I remember going to the student union building and there was like free condoms, and I was just like,
Mm.
what? It was a weird thing for me. But then, they're just so proactive there because obviously culturally it's different. So, getting pregnant or, STDs, it's such a big thing, right? So they kind of push that on you. So if I were to say what were the big things that from a health perspective were being pushed towards, whether it was men or women, and especially at a certain age in life, which is like the mid 20s, early to mid 20s, it was, yeah, a regular STD testing if you're somebody who is sexually active, making sure that you use protection or contraceptives if you are
Yeah.
engaging, in premarital, or even if you are married and you want to have like, like sex, those were the things I remember being pushed because I don't remember the prevalence of cancer. You did hear about cancer and you did hear about it, and more so like it was people who were older, but you didn't really have it being as prevalent as you do nowadays, right? People who are so young, so many kids. There was a boy when my daughter was graduating from primary school. One of the, let's say, the heroes that they were showing love to was that this boy in year six, who the previous year in year five had just overcome cancer, right? And it was
Mm.
crazy to think about the fact that a boy who was in year five with my daughter was going through this incredible battle that he survived, and you never
Mm.
think of a child, so I think
Yeah.
that, and also I do have to say that I do have to give props to Dubai as well, because since I moved here and then of course I got into the healthcare space in 19, Dubai is a city that's very, very much pro fitness, pro wellness, And yes, healthcare is very, very different here and it's much more accessible. Of course, it's different compared to the US. The healthcare system is different, the insurance system is different, but there are a lot of options for you if you, again, have the purchasing power, and it doesn't need to be a grand purchasing power. You can still afford to get insurance and you can still afford to basically get that, go get those tests, and just check yourself out. And then on top of that, you do have a lot of healthcare providers that send, like, are very much encouraging you constantly staying on top of your health and your wellness. Now there's always two sides to that coin, because you think, okay, there's always a financial incentive when it comes to the healthcare, and we know, and I think
Mm.
you guys know a lot about that in the US. But I can definitely say that because culturally here, the relationship between health, wellness, and fitness is such a huge thing that you're just constantly reminded of that. And to go back to what you were saying, yes, social media was not a thing back when I was in my 20s. I think probably Facebook was what, around the early 2000s, 2005 ish. And then I remember Instagram started to become a thing around 2012. So yeah, social media has definitely played a big role in promoting whatever it is that you want to promote. But I think you have to take it with a grain of salt as well when it comes to social media and the way in which the algorithm works and the way the information is disseminated. Because there's a lot of health experts on social media that I wouldn't necessarily, unless you are a licensed practitioner, then,
Mhm.
or you have extensive credentials that you showcase, then I'm not going to take my health advice from somebody who's just, been reading about it and speaking to Dr. Google or Chat GPT. I think that's a fine line that you have to be really, really careful about. when it comes to health, wellness, and fitness on social media.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a lot of trendy stuff and everybody's trying to go viral. So I'm such not a fan of those things. I'm a fan of common sense. You know what I'm saying? When it
Yeah.
comes to wellness, like I'm a fan of data, like to your point, like data that's about you and your body, and then common sense. I think there's a lot of trends was like, well, you should just go full this diet or this or this. And it's like, no, your body is unique. You need to understand what's going on with your body. You need to be in tune, but it takes a lot of discipline to be in tune because it's very easy to fall into a trap of like trendy stuff online, all the technology that's coming at you and forget like how do you actually feel. And I think that's what I've been learning last 2 3 years is like, seeing all the changes in my body. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, but I really want to dive into that because I see a lot of my friends in late 30s and early 40s struggle with this because we keep trying to do the same shit that we did when our in our early 20s or early 30s for our bodies, and it doesn't work anymore. From
I look,
exercise, food, all that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to 2 shout outs that I'm gonna give, and this is not sponsored. Hopefully one day they'll sponsor. My journey with, the Elixir Clinic, that's where the first I got my feet in, got my feet wet when it came to healthcare, and they specialize in customized intravenous nutrient therapy, so IV drips, but they are customized based on what it is that you need, you're lacking, or you're in excess of, and they make those infusions based on what your body needs. So when I like got into healthcare, that's where it started. And that's when I started to educate myself. And then I learned along the way, and I've been doing the realm of healthcare and wellness operations since 2019. And then also when I started the customized supplementation. So shout out to Bionic for that. So in both of these realms is where, again, going back to harping on diagnostics, 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 right? In order for you to know what it is that you need to give your body, or what is your body in excess of or lacking, you need to know what's going on. You need to check in, right? It's like your body is an engine. Like think of it as an amazing car, whatever brand
Mm,
floats your boat. So if I think of myself as an amazing Mercedes G Class, but I'm running on empty, like how far is that car going to go until it stops? And I also need to know what kind of petrol I'm putting in that car, right? So I need to understand what the engine's all about and how do I feed the engine and how do I clean the engine, right? So it all starts, in my opinion. And again, I am not a medical expert. I'm not a medical practitioner. I don't have any kind of medical degrees. I'm just basing this off of experience with Bahari. What did Bahari learn along the way? And have always struggled with, visceral fat around my belly. That's where I've always gained my weight and stored my weight. And as you know, it's a risky area because, it could lead to cardiovascular issues. And then, of course,
mhm,
as you get older, your metabolism changes, right? You're not the same, like the way you move in your 20s is different from your 30s, is different from your 40s. Your hormones are different, especially after you have a child. Your body changes, and then if you're lucky enough to have a natural birth as opposed to a C-section, are you able to breastfeed or not? How did you lose the weight? So all of those plays such a fundamental role in your day-to-day life and your cycle. And
mm,
sleep is so important. Everything in the human body is connected. Your mind, your body, your soul, everything's connected. And I was speaking to a really, really amazing functional medicine doctor who is a good friend of mine as well. And she was telling me that basically you want to understand what is the root cause. Whatever it is that is happening in your system, you need to know what the root cause of that is. And diagnostics plays a fundamental role in that. And then
mm,
if whatever is going on in your body is either related to your immunity, it's related to your hormone health, and it's also related to your gut health, right? It's these three things because all of them work
yeah,
together. So, in order for you to know what you need to give your body, you need to understand what is going on in your body. And checking in every 6 months or checking in every 1 year. Again, like I said, if you have a good practitioner, or I don't know what it's like in the US, but we're very lucky here in the UAE where we have things like telehealth or telemedicine, where you have applications where they're focused on offering diagnostics, screening. So they'll come to your house through like a home care license, and the licensed nurses, practitioners, they come in, they draw your blood depending on what type of test it is that you want to do. Let's say you want to do a comprehensive female panel to check everything that you need to know. And then based on that, you sit with your practitioner and say, okay, this is what my diagnostics are showing. What do we need to do from here? And then you
Mm,
build on that. So whatever it is, whether you want to regulate your hormones, whether it is weight loss, whether you're having sleep issues, whatever the concern is, I would say if you just want to start somewhere, start at the baseline. Understand what is
yeah.
going on in your body and then build on that before putting anything in your body. Understand what's going on first so that you are offering it the best support based on knowing what's going on. And the only way you're going to know is what's happening through your diagnostics.
In the US, like, it's if you have money, you can basically have the same kind of service, right? It's a very privileged kind of lifestyle to have somebody to take the blood work and take it to a practitioner because everything has to be approved by insurance, and then
Yeah.
to get approved by insurance, it's a whole thing. But if you have money and you want to pay out of pocket, yeah, you can just go and do the blood work. Somebody can even come to your house, or you can go to a place and etc. And you do all of that. With insurance, it's a little bit more complicated, sadly, which is why I think a lot of Americans are so unhealthy in so many ways because we don't have that immediate access, because in the UAE it's also a lot cheaper, which is why when we travel, like every time we go to travel to Asia, we literally put aside a couple of days. We go to like Bangkok and do checkups there. Like
It's
legit
important. It's important.
for like peanuts of a price, relatively speaking. For a few $100s, we'll do full body checkup, no questions asked, no insurance approval, no all these steps that you have to like jump through in the US, which again, I understand it's a very privileged way to be able to do that. To your point, like, yeah, all those diagnostics are important because also a lot of people, like, supplements are such a big thing right now. And I'm all up for it. I love me a supplement, but only if you actually need it.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Everybody needs different levels of supplements, but people go crazy with supplements and in very uneducated way. And that's where, like, common sense, what might work for somebody else does not work for you. Going back to do your actual checkups first and make sure you're creating supplements that are for you.
Look, I'll explain my journey, and I'm disclosing because I want to, and it's something I want to share because usually I don't like to talk about this just because you know how we talked about a couple episodes ago, we said, judgment is real. When it comes to this topic, the reason that I just choose to share it with people who I feel will understand and get the educational part of it is because I want people to come at it with an open mind. So I remember when the whole Ozempic or medicated weight loss thing became a thing. I want to say it really was in hype and all the celebrities were talking about it. It was probably 3 years ago, maybe I want to say it was at full peak. And at that point in time, I'm going to admit I was just a naive. Like, no, this is just a fad. I didn't know much about it, but there was curiosity. And again, I just listened to what was being pushed out online and it was just negative, negative, negative. But the more the time went by, I just got really curious about it, right? And then I was like, okay, if I really want to understand this, I need to do a deep dive. So I decided to do a whole bunch of research because I thought, okay, I knew I never wanted to do Ozempic, because I just read up about it, and based on the clinical studies that I found, I realized that Manjaro, which that's the trade name is Manjaro, but let's say the medical name or the name of its type of peptide therapy, it's trizepatide, right? So I did a lot more research into it and I read articles and I saw that people lost more weight using Manjaro versus using Ozempic. So again, I had to really do my own deep dive before I decided that I'm going to take up this journey. But even then, I didn't do what most people have tended to do, where, again, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying this is a trend that I've seen that people would just go to a doctor, get a prescription, and then just start on the medication, right? And for me, it just was mind boggling. It's because, well, how am I going to just start with a medication when I don't know what's going on, right? I need to
Mm-hmm.
first understand. Let's do some blood tests and see if my body's okay for me to even do this, right? So at the end of December 2024, I decided, you know what, I want to this journey. And again, another shout out to Metabolic, which is an amazing facility here in Dubai where they just focus on diabetes, pre-diabetes, medicated weight loss. And I was so lucky. I met this amazing Armenian doctor there who obviously speaks Russian, so we connected on that. That I just have a lot of lovely Russians in my life. So we started, and I just sat down and I was speaking to her, and I was very honest with her, and I said, "Listen, Dr. Nara, to be quite honest with you, I just look at myself in the mirror and I don't recognize myself. I don't feel sexy. I don't feel good in my body. My clothes don't fit me. I was really, really unhappy. And I was working out. I was working out I was doing weight training, not the way later that I was, but I was doing everything I needed to. So I really sat down and first of all, I walked in with blood tests. I had already done my blood test and I said, here you go. This is what it is. And then I told her all of the things that I had heard that had been the negatives about going on medicated weight loss, whichever one you wanted to choose. And then I told her, my goal is not to be skinny. My goal is to be at the ideal weight for my age, my height, and whatever metabolic health that I would like to achieve. And so we started on this path together in December 2024. And at first, I'm not going to lie to you, I was ashamed to admit it because when people automatically hear that you're doing medicated weight loss, they'll just label it, oh, it's the easy way out. People don't realize that when you start a journey like this, you have to eat, you have to monitor your protein so well because you don't want to lose muscle. At over 40, maintaining your muscle mass is already hard enough as it is. So if you're already going to get on a medicated weight loss journey, you're going to be very careful because you do not want to lose muscle. Secondly,
Mm,
you have to make sure that the way you're training is complementing what you're trying to achieve. On top of that, you have to be very cognizant of how you are sleeping, the way that you're exercising. Over 40, women need to do way more weight training than you did prior to 40. Your lower body has to really, really be strong. But also, again, I was constantly just doing hit training, and I wasn't focusing so much on doing a combination of hit training and cardio. So it was all of those things that I had to take into consideration and change, and then also use the medicated support to be able to get to where I am now, which what are we in March 2026? And I think I've lost the total of maybe 13 kilograms, but it was step by step. She took me every single dose. Every time we increased the dose, we talked about it. Every quarter,
mm,
I had to do another round of baseline blood testing for them to check in to see how is this medication working with my body, right? And it was something, again, it was not cheap.
right.
Certain medical insurances will cover it. Otherwise, you just pay as you go, right? So for me, I was doing it pay as I go. So it was something that I committed to time wise, effort wise, financially. But the ultimate goal was I have seen, when people look at me now, and again, I'm not peddling this, I'm not pushing this. It was something that worked for me. It's something I did because I wanted to be at the healthiest level. And I had a lot of visceral fat around my belly. I had a lot of fat, which it really helped me melt. But it also came with the right kind of exercise, the right amount of protein intake, the right amount of sleep, the combination of walking. People don't understand how important walking is. And then the regular testing as well, seeing at every point, every dosage that I was on, how is it working with my body? So
Mm,
that's just a little example to show you that whatever you're going to commit to, whether you're going to do the medicated weight loss route, whether you want to do something else, maybe it's just peptide therapy, because there's different types of peptides for different things that you want to achieve, or you just want to have hormonal health, you want to have gut health. Before anything, sit with your practitioner if you are lucky to have one, or find a good practitioner. Talk about your family history, your health history, all your medical history. Understand what it is that you need to do to be able to get to whatever optimal health goal that you want to set for yourself. That's my
mm.
advice. Like, don't just rely on the internet.
I think in your case, like, yeah, you did the right steps. You had the resources and the education and stuff like that. And for me, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not there yet. Although I've gained some weight, and I'm desperate to lose the weight, and I'm doing all the things, and it's just plateau. But I feel like my body will just freak with things like that. Like, I'm tempted. There are days where I'm tempted. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, well, yes, because I do think that there's also like this change happening in my body because of age. Part of it is also like my work life because I am very workaholic. So I think cortisol and all of that. I think I need to work on that first and foremost, which is what I'm trying to do. But I tend to just work a lot. But anyway, but I don't know. I get nervous about these things, man. Like more power to you to be
It's
able to let
fair.
go.
It's
You know what I'm
valid.
saying?
It's very, very valid thing to be nervous about. And like I said, don't do it unless you do it the educated way. And
Right.
again, I'm telling you, it's not something. It's not like I take a freaking trumpet and I'm like, "Hey, look at me."
Yeah,
No,
yeah, I
because
got
again,
you.
it comes with a lot of judgment, and I'm not going to deny it is. In a way, it is a shortcut. You are suppressing your appetite. It does. The food noise
So
goes
that's what it
away.
does,
But I
right?
didn't
It's
even
just it. That's what it
Yeah,
does? Like, it's, like, what
it
is it?
cuts out the
Okay.
food noise. You just automatically the food noise, that's the first thing. I was very lucky, I had no nausea, but then again, I started on the lowest dose, right? I
Right,
started on the
right.
lowest dose, and we dosage, the dosage is very, very important. You can't just go to the highest one. You know, you need to start slow, you need to track, right? So, it was very important that I do it the right way, but at the same time, like I said, back to the way I was working out. Prior to also doing this journey, I had set a goal that I just told myself every single day, come hell or high water, I am going for a 45-minute walk. And those walks are so important to me because there are
Mm,
literally a brain dump moment, right? Where everything that's happening, whether I go very early in the morning or after a long day at work, I like to go for my walk because it really is just such an important way for mental health. But at the same time, the importance of walking is just for your physical health. You know, people don't give it enough credit. And I have an old knee injury, you know, and I after a certain point I couldn't run. Remember, we used to go to Barry's boot camp a lot together, right?
yeah,
After a
yeah.
certain point, I just couldn't do that intensity of running. So I also had to learn how to kind of fix my relationship with the type of exercise that I was doing. And I had to progressively start doing more weight training. Now, at first, you know, it took me a while to be able to get to the weight that I am now. And again, everybody's level of intensity when it comes to the heaviness of the weight that they can lift or whatever repetitions they can do is based on them. But the most important thing is that you keep on challenging yourself to do more and more over a progressive period of time. As I'm telling you, I started this journey in December 2024. We're sitting here in March 2026. So it took me a long time, and I still would like to lose a little bit more belly fat because that's just visceral fat that's sitting there. But I am very committed. Like, I have to work out. It's not like I'm just sitting there, oh, I'm not eating, it is what it is. No, I want to have muscle. I want to be muscular. And then when people find out that I've done it, there's the judgment. Thank you so much. It's okay. You're entitled to your opinion. At the end of the day, it was my time, my money, my effort, my journey. So I know what I put
Yeah,
into it. And everybody's going to judge you. It's like people who decide to get liposuction, people who decide to get BBLs because they want to look more round than they want. Whatever floats your boat, man. If that's what makes you happy and you've done the research, you've done the educated work, if you've sat with doctors, you've gotten proper opinions, and you know it's going to work for your body, God bless you. What you do with your body and your time and your money is your responsibility with your body. So it's the same thing for me. But it was a commitment. I really, really had to make that solid commitment to my body because I was also putting a lot of money into it, right? It's not like it's just free. It's a lot of financial commitment as well. It's not a cheap medication to be on, right? But I
yeah,
made the commitment, and I can tell you I'm very, very happy that I did this for myself, you know? But if somebody were
yeah,
to come and ask me, "Hey, do you think I should do it?" Or, "Oh, I heard you're doing it. I was just thinking about, like, you know, getting a prescription." I'd be like, "No, don't you do yourself a disservice and find a." I either recommend them to the practitioners that I went to, or I tell them, "Do your research, find a practitioner that will work best for you, work within your budget, and do your blood testing before you start anything." And then take it from there
yeah,
and make sure that you're committed to your exercise routine. Make sure that you are committed to weight training. Weight training for women is really important. Women automatically assume that I'm going to get bulky. No, you have to do the right exercise that works for you. I've never been a petite woman. I have a lot of muscle, and it was important for me to maintain that muscle. I feel sexy in my muscle. It took me a long
mm,
time to be able to feel sexy again. And that's one of the reasons why it was so important. It wasn't for vanity for other people. I wanted to stand in front of the mirror in all of my nudity and all of my nakedness, stand naked in front of myself and feel good in my body. When you are a woman and you've had a cesarean and you have a fupa, it's not the most attractive thing, especially when all you see in social media is women with waists like this and booties like this. And you know, social media, God bless, it's amazing, but at the same time, it can be really detrimental for your mental health because you
yeah,
see all of these unrealistic body expectations, and you're like, "Man, I'm trying so hard. How come I don't look like that?" Not everybody is supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to look the way your body is supposed to be at its peak. And whatever that peak is individual. Your health is an individual journey. Your fitness is an individual journey, right? So I
Yeah,
think people need to understand that and take ownership of that and then act accordingly.
yeah. Context matters. That's
Context
what
does
I'm
matter
getting.
for sure.
It really, really does. You know what's funny is when you were talking about berries, I was like, first of all, you are a beast in the gym, and I don't think people even like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they understand. But you know what's funny is that we could go like talking about like just how time changes and like bodies changes. Like we used to go out dancing into the night and be like, I will
Yeah,
see you at 6 a.m. at Barry's and
I'm
still
down.
have a killer workout, man. Listen, right now, if I don't get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep, I ain't going nowhere. I'm not talking to nobody. I need my recovery. It's wild. I think it's really, everything you mentioned is super important, you know. And again, context matters. And who cares? Listen, if it works for you, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, do you type thing, like you said. Context matters, and I think we need to move away from. I don't get it why we have to be so judgmental and opinionated about things. If it might work for somebody, not somebody else, right? And like for me, like I mean, I'm just nervous about these things. Like you know what I'm
Fair.
saying? I don't feel like I can I feel like my body every time I try to do something where it's maybe a little shortcut, my body's like, nah, you're not that person. We're gonna just derail your whole thing. Like for me, it's just like it just never worked. And frankly speaking, one of the biggest things that I've noticed about my body and as I get I mean get closer to 40s is just the nervous system, like, that's what I focus on. Whenever my nervous system feels calm, my cortisol levels are down, when I'm not stressed, and I'm talking about, like, even good stress and bad stress, like, right? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm a pretty happy person, everything's fine in my life, but I tend to work a lot, you know, and
Yeah.
that's just because of who I am. And I start to see when I go on vacation, I will eat everything, girl. I won't even work out as hard. I will drop weight like this. When we were in Asia in 2 weeks, I dropped weight like this. And that's only because I wasn't working. Nothing else has changed. It happens every single vacation.
Yeah.
Every single time we go somewhere, my body's just like, whew. And I really think for me, that's what I'm trying to work on now is like try to understand like my recovery because I really think that plays a role for me. Again, maybe not. Maybe people listeners like, what is she talking about? But for me, that's what I've noticed. I've noticed because I'll track my calories, I'll track my food because it's common sense, calories in, calories out, right? But
Yeah.
for me, I don't know if it's stress level. I don't feel stressed, but apparently my body inside, something's happening to where it reacts a certain. That's the journey I'm on right
I
now.
think
Is like trying
sleep
to unpack.
is also so important, right? You know, you
Yeah.
need that recovery. I have never been a very deep sleeper. Look, everything happens within the context of your life, okay?
Mm,
How you live your life is very specific to you. What time you sleep, how you eat, what your relationship with stress, your relationship with happiness, your relationship with anger, all of that. Your body is our bodies were created to perfection, right? And in the way in which we drive our bodies determines whether they're healthy or whether they're unhealthy. If my mind
mm,
is not at peace, I might not be able to sleep properly. If I'm not sleeping properly, I am fatigued and my cortisol level might be high. If my cortisol level is high, things are not working properly within my body to be able to help my metabolism, to be able to help my regulation, you know? So all of that works together, right? So it
mm,
is all specific to how you lead your life. I would for a very long time I remember I used to work with someone and she used to always make fun of the fact that I was not a morning person or I was always grumpy in the morning. That particular period of my life, it wasn't that I'm not a morning actually I am a morning person. It's just that when you do not sleep properly, it's very hard for you to restart the engine when the engine didn't get to sleep properly at night, right? And then when
yeah.
you wake up and you still feel lethargic and you still feel tired and your mind, you know, when your mind doesn't get to rest, this is why also you have so many people who are focusing and telling you that we need to get away from watching our blue screens or telephones at least an hour or two before we go to sleep because we have to allow ourselves to get into that circadian rhythm where we're unwinding, we're relaxing,
Yeah.
whatever your rituals are for you to go to sleep and if you take some supplementation And then again, when it comes to supplementation, are you taking the right supplementation that you need? There's different types of magnesium. People are like, oh, if you want to sleep, take magnesium. There's different types of magnesium. They have different roles to play. Not all of it might be right for you. Not all of it might be good for you, right? So all of that is individual to you and how your physiology is, right? So it all matters in the way you conduct yourself. And you could be the most, let's say, physically fit person, but you could be the most mentally unfit person, right? I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in
Yeah.
general, somebody could be
Yeah, yeah,
physically
gotcha.
amazing on the outside, but internally they're just crumbling and they're falling apart, right?
Yeah.
It all regulation in your nervous system, and I was telling you, it's so important for you to feel balanced in life, and in order for you to have that balance, everything has to go right. Like for me, exercise is just so important. It's no longer a physical necessity for me. I need exercise for my mental health. I
Yep.
need to work out in order to feel like I have been able to clear my head. And I find, and I tried this, I'm not good with exercise in the evening. Sometimes because of work-life balance, you don't have the option. You have to have your long day. You need to get your workout in. But I noticed that sometimes if I work out after a long day and it's been a really, really intense exercise session, and like you said, I'm a beast, I like to push myself. So when I do that and then it's later on in the day, I'm so amped up that I won't be able to sleep. Whereas I find that when I work out in the morning, man, it sets my tone for the rest of the day. And I feel so
Yeah.
good and I feel so productive and so energetic. And of course, I feel
100%.
that when I exercise during the day, I feel like my metabolism works better. So maybe I'm not hungry as often because sometimes, I'm the queen of snacking. Man, if I
Girl,
could,
you and I both.
I can eat for sport. I'm surprised I'm not overweight. Man, like, the amount I've eaten, I wish I could have grown a booty and walked backwards. But like, I just gain everything in my spares. And it affects your self-confidence, right? It affects your self-confidence. You want to feel sexy in your skin. But if I were to pull back everything, and again talking about what we talked about last episode, when you also get to your 40s, you also understand that it's so important to love yourself, right? And to love
Yes.
yourself in the right way. So at some point, you have to make peace with certain things. At some point, you have to make peace with the fact that this fupa, some people find it sexy. Even if I look
Mhm.
at it in the mirror, some people like that little fat right there. It's like a pillow. I
A
gotta be
little
okay
something,
with
something.
it. Or like, sometimes like when I'm working out, how some guys will come up to me and they'll just be like, they appreciate how much I work out. And it's the same thing. I have a workout buddy at the studio that I go to. God bless him. He's my friend's dad. And he's always there every Saturday and Sunday morning. And I think he's in his early 60s. And God bless him. I love it when he comes to class because he pushes me. And I always tell him this. I really
Oh,
respect the fact that he comes and he puts in so much work and effort. And that pushes me to want to do that. And this is one thing I've learned. I want to surround myself with people who have the same mentality as me. You
yeah,
know, the friends who you can work out with is so important. I think that's why whenever
yeah.
you come to Dubai, I was just like, let's go work out.
We're
It's it's
gonna go
it's
work
it's a
out,
way
yeah.
it's a way of socializing because that dynamic changes, right? Before maybe it
Mhm.
was drinks. Now it's like, hey, let's sleep early. Let's get up in the
Yeah,
morning. Let's go for a long walk. We talk. We're working on our fitness. We're working on our mental health, and we're spending time together.
yeah. It's a win-win. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And you know what else is also important? Like one friends, yes. And I've also noticed myself distancing myself from people who are like just kind of giving up. Just because you're in your 40s doesn't mean you just give up. Like you don't just let your hormones run wild. Actually, figure out what's going on with. Love yourself enough because you're still very young. Like love yourself enough to figure out what is going on and get second, third, fourth, fifth opinions. To really step to really put yourself together. And for me, I'm very mindful about especially like workout people, like friends in my life, because it comes down to like values as well. I think it's very important, which we talked about in the previous episode before. But and furthermore, which I know we're going to talk more about relationships in the next episode, but having a partner who's also on the same wavelength is so important.
Yeah.
Like somebody who is also into health, and like I'm saying, like who's active. These sort of things is so important. It's been a game changer for me. Like honestly, I think I'm more active. I mean, I've always been active, but I feel like just having a partner who's super active, like our vacations are very wellness oriented. It's so important to have a partner who's also active. And I know we're gonna talk about relationships in the next episode, but yeah, to your point, man, like being around people that are curious about these things, people who want to be better, who want to age well and be active is so important.
Being healthy in your 40s is like the ultimate flex. Being healthy in your
Yep.
50s, being healthy in your 60s, it's such a flex because when you're younger, it's easier to do that. It's easy for you to maintain that. But when you get older, you have to work at it. And yeah, choosing somebody who wants that lifestyle with you, you know, who you guys want to be active, you want to do things together, whether it's to go for a hike or to run a marathon or you know you guys want to do iron men and women, I don't know, iron
Yeah.
person, iron people, I don't know how you call it, but whatever. You guys are active together. And at the end of the day, if you are healthy together, your sex life is good. You
Yeah.
know, it's so important. Your hormones, back to your hormones. If your hormones are not regulated, your libido gets affected, right? Whether
Yep.
you're a man or a woman, men now have lower testosterone levels than their fathers and their grandfathers. So if you're not healthy,
Yep.
if you do not feel aroused, it means that something's going on there. And one of the most important things in life is to have a healthy sex drive. It's so
Yeah.
important to be able to enjoy that. And in order for you to be able to enjoy that, you've got to be fit. You got to be mentally healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy. And you got to have your mojo, man. You want to feel sexy.
Yeah.
And you know, being intimate with your partner doesn't just mean that you guys are physically intimate, not that physical release. You guys have to
Yeah.
have your pheromones bouncing off of each other where sometimes okay, I'm single. So like I don't have this in my life right now, but sometimes when like a really good looking man walks by and he smells all kind of right and you're like, "Oh, Jesus, help me. Not today." You got to feel
Oh,
healthy.
yeah.
That's being
Yeah.
regulated. You got your
Yes.
pheromones have to be working. And as you start to get older, perimenopause is coming for us much sooner than who knew what perimenopause? We knew what menopause
Mhm.
was. Now we
Yeah.
got to freaking deal with perimenopause. And that stuff comes for you, right? And
Yeah.
you got to learn how to recognize the signs and recognize how to manage it. And you one of the things that it might affect is your sex drive, and you never want to lose that. That's just such an essence of being a human being, right? It's not just procreation. I get it, we're here to but at the same time it's just like there's something so sexy about looking at each other and speaking with your energy, feeling that
Yeah.
chemistry from across the room and like connecting. Okay, fine. At the end of the day, you guys connect and it's like boom, chicky boom, boom. But like you got to be able to have that frequency and finding a partner who will want to work out with you in and out of the bedroom. Hey, amen.
Yeah. Amen to that.